Okay, hello everyone. This is OK here, and we're going to be doing a deep analysis endgame stream today. In fact, yesterday night, the international master Astaneh on Lichess played a Simul against 50 people, and he won a good majority of those games. But today we're just going to focus on one of those games in that Simul. And in fact, we're not even going to focus on the game, we're just going to focus on the end game of that one game. And I think it's instructive because there were wild swings in that end game. And of course, Astaneh is an international master, but the end game is it's very easy to, if you're playing something instantly, it's very easy to play the wrong move. It really takes but it shows that it's something we should all study to try and gain intuition. And also, there's an element of Astaneh was playing for the win in all these games, which also probably threw him off because it was a position as white where he probably should have been playing for a draw. So this is one of the kind of starting position from the endgame. And I'll just play through the game once I'm sure we have some people with us, and then we'll get started. So just checking, yep, Rook Endgame study from the Astaneh Simul. So we're live on Lichess, so welcome everyone. And let's get going. Okay, so let's just play through the game. We'll look from Astaneh's perspective. Knight f3, knight f6. So delayed e4, e5, and Scotch. And an interesting piece sacrifice from black, but he regains the piece. But white gets some nice play down the f-file. White gets some nice play down the f-file, but black gets a very strong bishop. But I said I wouldn't discuss the game, so let's go straight on. Now a very nice sequence here from black, piling up all his forces on e4, which turns out to be impossible to defend. And with that move, we see black does some trades which wreck white's pawn structure. So white has regained the pawn, the e4 pawn fell. Pawns now are equal. And we're into an endgame. And we're soon going to get to that position which I showed you right at the beginning of the stream. Yeah, notice both sides have got 3 pawn islands, but white has got doubled pawns. And white, if you like, white has got 1 extra pawn on the queen side and black's got 1 extra pawn on the king side. So of course, black brings his king in, white brings his king in to the center of the board to control everything. So black is trying to create a passed pawn on the king side. Lots of shuffling. Takes, takes. Now, I think that actually this is also a point worth pausing. If white were to exchange off rooks, then he can easily create a passed pawn on the king side. So takes, takes, create a passed pawn on the king side. White's king would have to go to collect up that passed pawn, and meanwhile the black king could chomp on all white's pawns and this pawn would promote. So notice here that white doesn't want a rook trade. So it should already be clear that in this position white shouldn't really be going for a win. And as I said, that's probably something which threw Astaneh off in the game. Probably trying to go for a win in all games. So of course he doesn't trade rooks because that would be a terrible blunder. More shuffling. And yeah, so as I said, this is a drawn rook endgame. If anything, black has got the winning chances. If the rooks are exchanged, black can create a pass pawn on the king side and use that to distract the white king from mating the a pawn. So rook b4, rook c3, rook b5. Okay, so both sides are shuffling. Now, how can white secure the draw? He could just continue shuffling, but something to be aware of is what ideas does black have for winning, which white has to be careful about, and what ideas does white have to secure the draw. So there is, even in this position, quite a forcing move that white has, which would actually secure, which is actually completely drawing. And that's b4. And the reason for that, if the rook takes, we check, pick up the pawn, and check here. And okay, so now in this position, although we've lost a pawn through that whole exchange of pawns, this position is relatively easy to draw because now the pawns are on the same side, the king can protect. Still, you have to be slightly careful. So if the king goes back, you can attack those pawns again, so keep checking. If the king tries to hide round here, okay, so you have to be a little bit careful. You have to try and cut that king off. If you were to bring the king in, okay, that's still okay, but if rook b3 check and you did this, then suddenly you'd be losing because the king could come in, and if you check now, the king has managed to get in behind your pawn, and that pawn is falling, and there's no way to defend it. If you try and attack his pawns now, he can check you, take the pawn, and the king has been evicted from behind the pawn. So this is the kind of thing that white has to be careful about. So of course the thing to do in this position, if ever white is checked, is to go to g2. So if king g4, check and cut off the black king. So that was just one example of a drawing technique. Now you have to be slightly careful because black could also take with the pawn. But then what you can do is you can do this and this. And this white rook is always going to tie this black rook defending this pawn. And so again, the white king is very well positioned, and this is going to be a drawn endgame. Black might try this, but then you just step back, and again, the white rook will cut off the black king, and this will be a drawn endgame. There's a third thing that black could try in this position, which is pushing this pawn. Now, yeah, a white never wants an exchange of rooks. Exchange of rooks, white king would come up and black would win. So rook c4, you defend your pawn. If the rook is attacked, you defend it. We could go back to e3. At some point, black is going to create a passed pawn. And then one of the ideas white has in this position is to check the black king from behind. And actually it just turns out, just as a nice thing, that in this position you can exchange off rooks because the white king is just well enough positioned to just pick up that white pawn, and this would require some counting. We're just back in time to defend our own pawn, so it would be equal. But there would be other ways of drawing this, so you wouldn't have to do the rook trade. You could do this, for example. And I think the point here is we have enough counterplay with our own b pawn and picking up the a pawn that we can and we can do checks from behind on the black king, that this will be a draw. So, okay, so there was this idea in the position of b4 to try and force the draw. But instead in the game, we saw some more shuffling, king d3, f4, takes, king takes. A very good move because that keeps the pawn as much of an outside pawn as possible. And here in this position, white made a mistake. So I'm going to pause at this point and ask you what you think white should play in this position. But maybe if you like, you can see the rest of the game. Okay, if you like, you can see the rest of the game. So I'll show you the rest of the game. So this will be the first position we look at. And now in this position, it was black to play, and black, it turns out, might not have played the best move. And that will be the second position we look at. And now in this position, it's white to play. This will be position 3. So this is how the game continued. And this black to play will be position 4. King g2, rook d5, rook a8. And this white to play will be position 5. White king. And this position black to play will be position 6. So we'll see it. And this white to play will be position 7. And these are all interesting positions. He's forced to give up the rook. Actually, this position here, black to play, will be position 8. He's forced to give up the rook, and here, white to play will be position 9. And finally, black to play here will be position 10, which we'll come to last. And at this point, white resigned. So that's the plan. So Yalao in chat says, I like king e2. So we're going to go to position 1. So it's white to play, and hopefully it's all set up so you can't see the analysis while I ask you this, but you will be able to. So I need to close. So no challenges, please, because I'm doing some endgame study. Okay, so king e2 is indeed the right answer. So what I'll do is I'm going to test if this works. I've got a little black card set up so I can reveal and hide analysis. So yeah, okay. So let's show it. King e2 is indeed correct. You can ignore stockfish. I think king d2. It says minus 1.9. I think king d2 is losing actually, whereas king e2 is indeed drawing. Just worth mentioning, by the way, this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 men on the chessboard. So it's an 8-man endgame, and therefore too many for the 7-man databases. So king e2 is indeed the right answer. Okay, but what is the idea in this position? Okay, so let's just try and get a little bit deeper into this position. And it seems like my stuff is frozen a little bit. Let's try and get deep into this position. Okay, so the pawns there's an equal number of pawns on both sides, but the problem is that black has got a passed pawn. So usually what white would want to do if black has a passed pawn is to get his king behind the passed pawn, and that would be one strategy. Something else, another idea which is often useful, is to check the black king if the black king has no safety from checks. The problem is, hi there, Burak Yarol in chat. Yeah, not Crazy House today. It's almost always Crazy House on this stream, but we've got some deep endgame analysis today. So as I said to begin the stream, Astaneh, the international master, should be grandmaster, played 50 people in a Simul yesterday. We're looking at one of those games. I played through the game at the beginning of the stream with some brief commentary, but we're actually focusing the entire stream on the endgame and on 10 positions in that endgame, which I think are very interesting. And we're beginning here with white to move. And the move played in the game was this, which turns out to be a blunder, and we'll see why in the next position when we turn the board round. So as I said, the plan for white might be to put his king behind the pawn. Unfortunately, that plan alone is not quite good enough. No, I mean, it is a good plan, but we'll see. It doesn't quite work always. So let's look at the winning move, King E2. Maybe we'll come back after the next position to other possibilities in this position. So King E2 is good. So why is it good? So white in this position could either try and push his pawn, or could try and just get his king up outside his pawn and then push it. So let's look at pushing first. G4. I'll keep the ending. So this is okay. So white has to try and maintain the draw in this position. Okay, so King F2 is actually forced here in this position. Yeah, and this is a really interesting idea. And King G2. You could also throw in a check, but the idea black has is to invade on the second rank. And we'll see why this is such a powerful idea. Black is desperately trying to invade on the second rank. Check. So that's black's great idea in this position, is to invade on the second rank. And what's white's idea? It's to desperately get rid of this pawn on the queen side. Because as long as there's a pawn on the queen side, as long as you got rid of that pawn, this white king behind this single passed pawn is going to be able to hold a draw. So, for example, here takes. This will be a draw. There's no way. Basically, this rook first tries to cut off the king on the fourth rank, or the third rank. Sorry, third rank. Third rank defense, Philidor position. First tries to cut off the king on the third rank, and if ever black pushes that pawn, I mean, if he tries to do stuff like this, you're happy to take it, and you're in position to take the draw. And if ever that pawn is pushes, you switch to a checking from behind defense. So this is an important technique. You just check from behind. Although the black king has shelter, the moment that rook moves from the f file, you just check him again. And the moment the king moves away, you can actually just move the rook back to the g file. But here, there's no shelter for the king, so the black king can be checked forever, and then at some point the white rook can come and pick up this last pawn. So this is a drawn endgame. Okay, but we'll see these ideas reoccurring. Black trying to invade on the second rank, and white has this great idea of just trying to get rid of this second black pawn, because then it will be drawn. So maybe a better try, instead of g4, is king g4. And again, try and invade on the second rank. Now, why is this such a great idea? We'll see. Okay, so should we show why it's a great idea first? So suppose we did suppose we just did no, not this. So the best move is actually to stop that black rook invading. If we were to, okay, we saw this idea of b4 earlier. A takes b4. Rook c4. Is this also working? I have a feeling it's not working, but I can't see. Yes, okay, this isn't working. So it turns out the black king can shelter here and promote this pawn. I've shown it, actually this will transpose to the other variation, which is, okay, Rook C4 here, and then push. Okay, so this is White's plan. Exchange off these pawns, and the White king is in position. This doesn't quite work, because the Black king is in too good a position. So he just pushes the pawn. If you check, he just gets into position. Takes, takes. Okay, so we can't allow this. This pawn is in too good a position. It turns out this will, yeah, Black will win this endgame. In fact, something else. If okay, let's go back a second. Okay, so we need to stop. If Black is trying to queen his pawn, so what do we do here? We could take here, but then Black goes check. We can't do this because we just get checkmated in one. This is the problem. The White king is not in a good position. Normally the White king can be here, but the Rook needs to check that king from behind. We can't allow the king. So what is the construction for Black to promote this pawn is Black gets his own king here, the Rook in front of the king, sheltering his own king, and then he pushes his pawn. So in this position, he's trying to push his pawn. So he can't push the pawn now because Rook would take it. So he goes king h2. So now there are no checks. He could try checking from behind in this position, but the problem is, so firstly, White has this check, and actually, I'm trying to think if this will work. So do we put the Rook behind our own pawn? No, because if we put the Rook behind our pawn, the Rook will come in here. So we have to push again, and then when we check, we'd hide behind our own pawn here, and then do we check? We could check to this king to chase it away. I'm just trying to think. So this is going to be, yeah, so this is going to be, or even better, do this. Okay, so this is winning for Black. Just trying to figure out a second why. Why is this winning for Black? Because, okay, White could take this pawn, take this pawn. So we have to think, how is Black going to get his king? Okay, yeah. So this is easily winning because we're going to be able to go Rook here, check, King here, and then promote. And that's going to work as long as our Rook can come and chase this pawn back, can get this pawn back in time. So for example, but a6, we could even do it here, Rook f2, it just works. King e3, no, it doesn't work. Okay, I mean it works, but it's not what I wanted. So if a6, we have to come and chase this pawn. a7, we chase the king away, and then take the pawn. And then we can come back and make that construction that we spoke about. So the White king, the point of this whole thing is the White king is not in its ideal position. So remember, the ideal position of the king to stop the promotion of this black pawn is behind the pawn. Okay, so I was basically saying in this position, Black's big idea is to invade on the second rank, and White's big idea is to exchange off this pawn. But actually, Black's threat is serious, which means that that King e2 is the necessary move in order to stop the invasion on the second rank. Now, Stockfish for a moment is saying this is good for Black, but I am claiming this is actually White holds the draw if he stops Black invading on the second rank. So if King h4, then we can... So we have to first stop Black's threat of invading on the second rank before we can trade off our own pawn. So if yeah, I mean, if, for example, black were to throw in some checks then this, and get behind this pawn, stopping the push, then we just get in front of the pawn, we're in great position, and this is a draw. It's got nothing the black can do. So, whereas if black tries to get in position here and push this pawn, get his king to h2, as we saw, now this time white is just in time, check, takes, he's getting to h2, but the white rook can check him from behind, and this time there's just enough counterplay from the pawn that that white can't make, that black can't make progress. We just get behind the pawn and then take it, and we can now go and promote this pawn. So the black king is just a move behind. So actually quite important here. This is the construction. Your king is diagonally away from his king, so that even when he takes back the pawn, it's your move, and you have this almost, in terms of opposition, it's a 2-move head start. Black would need 2 moves to gain the opposition. If black could gain the opposition in 1 move, then it would be problematic. So there's nothing that black can do, because if he ever checks, once he gains the opposition, because the pawn is, once he gains the opposition, it's too late. Nothing can be done, and it's a draw. Okay, so we learned quite a few things from this. Mostly that that stopping this entry on the second rank is very powerful. Is very important. So why is it very important? So there are some other ideas. So, like, so we haven't properly seen why it's so important to stop the rook invading on the second rank. So why have we not seen that properly? Yeah, we'll see it in the next. We'll see it. Well, I'm gonna do position 2 first, black to play, and then we're going to come back to this, and then hopefully we'll see why the second rank is so crucial. So I'm going to hide the analysis again, and we're going to look at position 2. So hopefully that's hidden for you now. Position 2, black to play. Okay, so we flipped the board round. We said white should have gone king e2 to get his king in a good position to stop this passed pawn. Instead, he went here, hitting the rook. So, suggestions from chat, please. What should black play in this position? Because there is just one winning move for black in this position. Any ideas? There's another. I mean, there are a couple of good tries. Okay, we need some suggestions for black. The black rook is under attack. Where should we move it? Rook b1. Okay, so let's go. So if we went Rook b1, maybe black could correct his error and try and get back to behind the pawn. Maybe we could try just to stop him in some way. But black then gets to do his plan of pushing this pawn. And the moment you don't have that pawn, actually the white king is not in that great a position, but I think he's in good enough position to be able to. So if suppose black tries to, what can black do here? Black can try and push the pawn, but I think there's enough counterplay from this pawn that white will be able to get a draw. So there's a move which will stop this b4 push. In fact, there are two moves that stop this b4 push. So it's one of those two moves. So you could also, I mean, a reasonable try is rook b4, king d3, rook e4. That cuts off the king. So this might also work, actually. I'm not sure. So what can white do? White could try this, but then we have rook e3 check. Maybe picking up this one. King c4. So this, I think this will also work, actually. So the key idea, and the move which I was thinking, is rook e5. And the idea is, I've already drawn it. You're cutting off the white king, but also you're stopping b4. If b4, we just have check and pick up this pawn. So not only are we now a pawn up, but the white king is cut off from approaching this pawn. So this is a dangerous situation for white. He doesn't have the counterplay on this side of the board. And his king is also in bad position. So if we go rook c1, rook e3 check here, and push the pawn, and black is winning. Another try, instead of b4, he might try rook c1, but now we can push the pawn and do this sort of now you can get the king. You chase away the rook, and now you can promote this pawn. So he gets his king behind the rook. So by the time his own there's nothing that. So this position is going to be won for black, because the black king is just well positioned enough to have the opposition too early, and so he can just come in and take off these pawns. So the answer is rook e5, but actually I'm pretty discovered by doing this that actually I'm pretty sure this will also work, just doing this and then this, because this has the same effect of both cutting off the white king and preventing the b4 idea. So you're therefore preserving this last pawn. Okay, so going back to the last. Now, oh no, I didn't mean to mess up with this. Hopefully everything's okay. Okay, so I was going to uncover this again. Okay, I didn't mean to. Okay, so there's actually, I think we're in a position now to see why king d2, although it seems okay for white, it controls the second rank. This move fails because of rook e5. So I mean, actually, it turns out there are three winning moves for white in this position. It turns out rook e5, rook d5, and g4 all win. And in fact, maybe it's not the easiest. So maybe g4 is easier. So let's look at g4 first. So g4, the white king now tries to get back ground. The point is the black rook is invading, comes in, and it invades. And you see the difference. If the king was on e2, the king would have reached here and stopped the invasion. Now, this is why the invasion on the second rank is so critical, and it wouldn't be immediately apparent. So this is why it's such a dangerous invasion. The double pawns means one of them is lost, but it doesn't only mean that. So you might think my white king is in good position, so we're sorted here. Unfortunately, it also means, so the black king is trying to, why did the black king do this? It's doing this just to get out of checks. So the white rook can never throw a check at the black king. And then there's this move, rook a3. The white rook is always tied to guarding this pawn. All this while, it could never push the pawn or it just got taken. If instead of, if after, say, this move, it went for rook c4 or something, here, we're going to at some point attack this pawn, so you're going to have to come back and defend it again. If you try and push, then there's king h3. So let's see. White's trying to push his pawn. Check, and we're evicting the king from the premises, as it were. And that's just to make sure you don't have any like rook here checkmate ideas. And what does white do? Okay, white could try and stop the promotion, but you're going to just promote anyway. And this pawn is not quite far enough advanced that it can just. So if you do this, queen takes this, we're just in. Oops, that would be a pre-move blunder. We're just in time to catch this pawn. Yeah. So in this position, the beautiful idea is this, and that last pawn is falling. So what can white do? He might try and do this, so that if we take the pawn, we take this pawn. That's a nice idea, isn't it? But the problem with that is that white rook was actually doing a job on the third rank. It was keeping the black king from advancing. The moment it moves off the third rank, the king can advance and use the pawn as shelter. And now this is completely winning for black because there's a checkmate threat. He could do something like this to try and stop the checkmate threat, but then we're taking this last pawn. Okay, so now we are 2 pawns up, and one of those pawns is promoting. Okay, so that's why the second rank is so critical. So g4 we said was one of the winning after king d2. So we said g4 was winning. It turns out rook d5 check also wins, because see, the king is, so you're checking him, so you hide behind, you cut off the enemy king, and we're promoting the pawn. So that also works. The most tricky variation, which I think also works, is rook e5, but it has to be played very accurately by black. So white goes rook c4 check and tries to use this idea of exchanging off this last pawn. So takes. So on the face of it, this looks like it should be almost okay for white because he's got the passed pawn here. The problem is he hasn't quite got the opposition here. So I think check here, push. His king is actually can't quite stop this pawn from promoting. Okay. But black has to play each of these moves very precisely. So going back, so king f2 is necessary. Pushing the pawn is necessary. King g2, only move. King g1, it turns out, is a draw because the king is just in too bad a position. King h3, the king h3 is just to stop checks on the h file. Here, king g4 works. Also, rook b5 is also good. So king g4, rook b5. The king protects, and then the rook. So it chases the king further away. And now we're going to push. And the best white can do here is sack the rook. And it turns out the black king is just in good enough position to catch this last pawn. Okay. So something we actually will notice is actually critical for black winning this is because the king was in such was kept in a bad position. So the king was not too far advanced, and also the pawn was not too far advanced. So that's why. Okay, so we'll see more of this in the next puzzle. So I'm going to come back to this and cover that again. Okay, so we've seen lots of the great ideas. So in the original position, the drawing move for white was king to e2. So we're going to take that away. In position 2, the key idea for black, we've discovered, is to try and cut off the king and eventually and stop the b4 push if we can. So we keep our pawn. Okay, so we've learned lots of things, so hopefully now we'll be in a better position to do the next puzzles. So the game continued a few moves, and if we go back to the original game, what actually happened in the game was king f4, rook b8, which was a mistake because we just said that rook e5 would have been much stronger. So that rook b8 happened. So now white should have a draw. Rook d, and white played rook d3, and that's position 3. Okay, so we're in position 3, and you are white. So what do you play in this position? Rook d3 was not the move, but I think we sort of discussed this already. So, yeah, I think we discussed this already when we were doing position 2. The move is king to d3. Even if black tries to promote this pawn, we're getting the check just to push the king back, and we're getting back just in time. Even if we lose these pawns, the king is actually cut off. So it needs the rook to defend the pawn, and then we pick up the last pawn. Okay, so position 3 was quite easy. We need to get our king back. Okay, position 4. Now we turn around the board again, and now we're black. I should again show how we got here. So rook d3 was played instead. Black pushed the pawn, good move. So now black again is winning in this position. Rook d4 check from Astaneh as white. King f3, rook d3 check. And now black to play rook d3 check. We turn the board round. What would you play as black in this position? And actually, really anything works. So this isn't one of these really critical positions. But what black played in the game was a bit of a mistake. But it's still very interesting. So, any ideas, chat? What would you play as black in this position? Your king is under check, so we're going to have to move the king. Where do we go? Where do we go with the black king? So which square to hide behind the pawn? Yeah, so it seems like quite a natural plan. We're going to try and just go here, here, and here. Oof. Here, here, and here. That's what happened in the game, and it turns out, as we'll see, it turns out to be a terrible mistake. Because, well, we'll see why. King e2 is good if he tries to win your pawn, which seems like there's a trap. It looks like we're losing the pawn, but we're not. Oh, and just worth noting, can we win with this last pawn? We can, either by defending the pawn, like so, and then he'll trade off, and the last pawn, our king will come in time to get it, or even sweeter, just to go like this and pick up the pawns like this. So in these endgames, you have to check, even when we have the rook, that we are definitely winning, and we are. Yeah, so rook g3 from white looks threatening, as in it looks like it's taking our pawn, but actually it's not, because the white king is in such a terrible position. So realizing that, maybe white would go rook d5, hitting our pawn. So in that situation, black has one move, throwing in the check, and then pushing. And what his plan is to get his king here and his rook behind the king. That's the idea. So, for example, if the rook were to take this pawn, we just put the rook here, put the king behind it, and we're promoting. And in fact, something like this. So if he does this, this is actually what's going to happen. Indeed. So if you check from, if you check from the side, that you can still hide behind the pawn, and the point is the black king is in time to collect these pawns. And just to show the line, now actually this is really important. Notice the black rook is really great. The position of the black rook is great because it's cutting off the white king. So when that pawn pushes, the king can't do anything, and the rook just stays there. And the moment the pawn goes to the 6th rank, only then the rook moves to attack the pawn. Now this is actually a recurring theme in this position and in these rook endgames. You're cutting off the king on the 4th rank. If a pawn ever goes to the 6th rank, only then come and chase it up. If it gets to the 7th, then come and then eat it. So Wanaki says, I'd rather retreat to f4. Yes, that would be fine. So going all the way back, yeah. So here, Rook D4 check. Here, Rook D5 check. So the problem with this is, hang on. If you go here, check. If you start going behind the pawn, D5 check. Oh yeah, you don't want to do that because then we're going to lose this pawn. Okay, so yeah, we can't ever go to the 4th rank because otherwise the rook will pick up our pawn. Okay, I should let you see the analysis because it's not a secret at the moment. Yeah, so in fact, lots of moves win for black, but something very interesting. We were just looking at this line. So he comes to chase our pawn. We check him. We push. We protect the pawn. He takes our pawn here. Something just worth noticing. You might think, actually, we could go g2, because if he does this here and then do this, and then this is completely winning for black. And this is completely winning for black, but I want to show you something very beautiful. White can take this rook. And actually this is a draw. You might think, so queen against rook would be a win. It turns out white can create a fortress with these two pawns. In fact, 2 pawns is useless, but what you can do is Rook C5, brings the king in. The queen comes behind the pawns, they can't both be defended, and he gives up one of them. So the claim is the black king can never approach the white king and we shuffle. Actually, you've got to be careful. I mean, it's true, but you have to be careful. It's not true that the white king can shuffle. Because look at this. Check, bring the king in, and suddenly, bring the king in, and suddenly the white king can't shuffle anymore. The king hasn't got any squares, or the queen will take this pawn. So actually now the white rook has to shuffle. Rook c4, queen a1, rook c5. Okay, now this is a position where you might think the rook can just shuffle up and down, the king can shuffle up and down. Oh no, this is now a position where the king can't shuffle and the rook can't just shuffle because you have queen here check. I wrote it as queen b8, so let's keep it queen b8 check, and check and pick up the rook. So the shuffling is not so straightforward. You have to move the rook to c1. c1 is actually the only square which doesn't lose the rook. So if you were here, you'd lose the rook. To this. The king guards those 3 squares, and so actually that's the only safe square for the rook. So rook c1 is the only defending move, and if he checks you, you go to a5 and just shuffle the king. And at the moment he checks you laterally, now you can bring the rook back to its safe square. And so this is in fact a draw. But the reason it's so, okay, because c1 is the safe square, what would black do? He'll move his king to guard c1. And now the same thing happens, check, and now the safe square is c4, because the king had moved from c4. And the point is, the black king can't guard both c1 and c4. So this is actually a draw, a really quite fun draw. Just to show how easy it is to go wrong, I hadn't shown this in the study, but let's just show you how easy it would be to go wrong. In this original queen, suppose instead he went rook c5, Rook C4 and tried to shuffle from this position. Okay, now Queen A1. So we're just going to shuffle the king is the plan. Queen C1 check. Pick up the pawn. Okay, so we can't. Okay, we can shuffle the king the last time. Okay, now we can't shuffle the king anymore, so we shuffle the rook. So Rook C3 check. King D2. So we shuffle the rook, and now he goes Queen. I was thinking Queen. Oh yeah, Queen A7. The reason for Queen A7 is the king can't shuffle now easily. Well, it can. You can go Queen B5, but the point is, this is not. Hang on, this is not the most efficient. Let's just turn on the Opening Explorer. If King B5. Oh yeah, Queen A3. Ooh, Queen A3 hitting the pawn. B4. Queen to. Oh no, this is very interesting. I didn't see this. Is this really it? Wow. So this is really quite tough. It's more tough than I realized. Queen D3, pinning the rook to the king. So he tries to get out of the way. Queen E3 check. King to C6. Queen E6 check. King back. Queen E2 pinning it again. He tries to get out again. King comes in. Okay, so this is actually some really deep stuff that this because I'd seen something much simpler, but this is some really complicated line where white has almost got this fortress but not quite. So what I showed you at the beginning was fine. He had the fortress set up, but here somehow king here, queen here, rook here, and then you finally take that pawn, and then it becomes a queen and a rook endgame. So white never quite, because the rook's on the g-file, it's not protected by the pawn. White never quite gets this fortress set up. Now that is quite stunning. What I was going to say earlier was just something much simpler, which was that if their check takes, their check here, bring king in, check here, goes back, queen there. What I was going to say was that if you just shuffle that wasn't what I was going to say. My point was simply that the king is now guarding that c1 square. Okay, let's say it's more complicated than I realized. I mean, it's quite fascinating, in fact. So it's very important as white, let's say, to set up the fortress quickly, and it turns out this is the fortress construction in the middle of the board, which means you have two squares, safe squares, when the queen tries to check you from behind, and the king can't guard both those squares. If you don't set up that construction, there are crazy ways that black can get you. But that was all because white pushed his pawn g2 prematurely instead of doing what was much safer, which was put the rook either here or here and hide the king behind it. Okay, so we're going to cover up the analysis again, but not the evaluation. And okay, so in the game, black played king to g2, and his idea was we're going to try and hide behind the pawn. Okay, so rook d5, hitting the pawn, rook a8, defending the pawn. So king g2 is a mistake. So why? I mean, rook d5 is a good move. Defends. So now it's white to move. Yeah. Okay, so white to move. There are, in fact, what Astaneh did in the game wasn't terrible, but there's a clearer way forward. And I think you know what it is. I should just turn the variation off because it's making all kinds of signs. So white to play and draw. Any suggestions from the chat? So we are in a precarious situation here because the white king is not in a great position. So we're now in a situation where we want to get counterplay. Like if we could create a pass pawn on the queen side, then that would be good. But it's too slow. This black pawn is too far advanced. Like we don't have time to go this takes. That's just even if we could like do multiple moves, we just don't have time. Okay, so it's no surprise what the best move for white is here. Someone in chat can spill the beans. Offer draw and his opponent realizes it, says Wanaki. This is the easiest way to draw. Yeah. Well, the black can't lose this at the moment, so he can still play. Okay, so what's the move for white here? It is okay. It's not critical because there are two good moves, but okay. And what is also the drawing idea for white? I mean, we saw like if black's rook is actually not great here. Remember what the construction is for black to win this. The only reason why white has drawing chances here is because the black rook, the construction for black to win is to get the rook, king behind the rook, and promote the pawn. And the black rook on a8 isn't in a great position actually. Rook to d2, so throwing in lateral checks. Okay, so that doesn't work because it turns out the king can hide behind the pawn and then push the pawn and then keep on hiding behind the pawn. So lateral checks don't work. Okay, but we've seen this idea before. It's b4. Create a pass pawn. We can't really do much about this pawn, maybe throw in a few checks, but we need to create some counterplay on the other side of the board so that we could even sack the rook for this pawn, and then we have some advanced pawn on this side of the board. Okay, he can't. If he just avoids it, we will have a very advanced pawn here. We could even sack. We could just pick up. If we can pick up this pawn, we could sack the rook for this pawn. So this would be drawing. So black's best hope is actually to take. King takes, and go for it. And I was saying in this position, yeah, again, if we try and do checks from the side, because I have that, I can actually show you in the analysis again. Checks from the side, rook d3 check. Okay, I was going to say hide behind, but okay. So let's go back a second. Rook g1, g2, king c4, rook c8. So checks from the side don't work, so black should now be winning this. But actually, it requires some accurate place in certain positions. If the white king goes, So b4 has been a theme we've seen from earlier in the videos, like a drawing theme for white. There's a very important move for black in this position, and unfortunately I've just uncovered the analysis so you can see it. Rook C8 check. And the point is to keep, it's actually a very subtle move. It's keeping the white king behind the fourth rank. So also this Rook C8 check idea is so by checking and then attacking the pawn, you keep king b3 directly. It's behind the fourth rank, and then we can come in and because the white king is then not very well positioned, it would be a win. Okay, so actually, okay, so the white king is behind the fourth rank. So we'll see why that's so critical. It means now when you promote your queen, the black king is actually in time to get the opposition, to then throw in the check. And in fact, you can just go like this even. So if when you promote. So even though, so actually usually rook in front of the pawn means it can be hit, but with tempo in a way, but actually we're just in time to protect it. And yeah, so it's quite pretty. So this was all to say why checks from the side from white don't quite work, but only because of this very so king c4 is a great try, but there's this very important move from black, rook c8 check, and then back to the pawn just to get the king behind the fourth rank. That's the yeah, absolutely. C4 is then the king is in prime position to push the pawn. Exactly. And so what we've seen also is if you can cut the king on the fourth rank, if the pawn ever gets on its own to the sixth rank, we can just chase it. It gets to the seventh rank, and we come and collect it. It gets to the eighth rank, and we. So, yeah. So that's a really nice idea. Okay, so that's why checks from the side don't work. It turns out the key in this position is checks from behind. So that's going to be the theme for how white tries to get a draw. The moment the king pops up from outside this, from behind this pawn, white's going to throw in checks from behind. Okay, rook g5 first. It also works. Rook f3, rook g7, and the point is you have to either go to g6 or g7 to be far enough away that the king can't harass the rook when you check it. If you had checked it from here, you can just go king here. Okay, and in the meantime, the black rook is not well positioned. So notice if black pushes, there's no way of avoiding these checks from behind. If the king goes far away, like to here, just bring the rook back here and pick up the last pawn. So instead, the black rook might try to get back in position, so you keep checking it from behind, but black just can't make progress. So he might try and go here, actually. And rook f4 check, king c5. But the point is now the king is in a good position, so it doesn't work. So here we can go. We can even just, well, we can go one more. And then when you promote, takes, and now our king is too far, the king and pawn are too far advanced, and so this is going to be a draw. Okay, so I'm going to cover up the analysis again and just show you how the game went. So I'll show you because some of you are just joining us, I'll show you the game from the beginning. This is from the Astaneh Simul. He played 50 games yesterday. This is just one of the games. So black just sacked a piece, by the way, but regains the piece. And I said that the feature of this position is white's got this open rook file, but black has got this very powerful diagonal, which is really annoying because it ties down that bishop. So white blocks that diagonal. And black does some very nice stuff, targeting all his forces on the one white weakness, so very nice. And then we saw a nice sequence where black just weakens white's pawn structure. Pawns are equal, and so that's how we got to this position, which is where we started analyzing. Not quite here, but just in a few moves where we started analyzing. So it should be a draw with good play. And what we said just at the beginning of the stream was b4 was actually a drawing idea in this position. The idea being just cutting off the king on this. If he takes, then we take, we clear away the queen side, and we just a pawn down endgame, and we just get the king behind the pawn, and we're fine. If he doesn't take, if he pushes, then then we just defend our pawn, I guess. Yeah. And if he takes with the pawn, then we create a kind of fortress where we got a rook defended by a pawn. And if he pushes here, then we just drop our rook back. And his rook is always tied down defending his pawn, and so then this is again a draw. Yes, it was Astaneh playing 50 games, doing very well. And this is just one of the games, and this is just the end game of one of the games. And so monarchies, yeah, you never exchange rooks. So if white ever exchanges rooks, as I also explained at the beginning of the stream, it's lost because black creates a pass pawn from these guys. White has to bring his king back to collect the pass pawn. In the meantime, the black king comes, eats this up, and this pawn promotes. So exchanging rooks will never work in white's favour. So white always rejects the exchange. In order to get the draw, he needs to always reject that exchange of rooks, unless he can calculate. So this was the first position we looked at, and we found the winning move for white was king to e2, but instead this was played. This is the second position we looked at, black to play, and the winning idea is this, cutting off the king, or this followed by this, cutting off the king. But that was missed. Rook dropped back to b8, and as we saw, that's not a great position for the rook. Then this is the third position we looked at, white to play, and the best move for white is actually just to get the white king back. But instead he played this, and now black is winning again. g4 was played, rook d4, king f3, rook d3, and in this position black to play, and the winning move was, lots of winning moves, king e2 was good with a little trap set. But what was played was king g2, and now white actually has a draw by attacking that pawn and this b4 idea we just saw. But king b5 actually is also drawing, so let's just have a quick look at that. King b5 is okay, as long as you follow it up with this idea of getting the rook to d6 or d7 and checking from behind. Then that will also work. And now this rook seems to be quite tied down. Yeah, and the white king is in a good position. So this actually is also completely drawing. So just to go back to what happened in the game, king b5 happened, g3, the pawn was pushed. But this now was a mistake. This was the mistake. So we saw here, b4 is drawing. But going king b5 and then b4 turns out to be now winning for black. Hi there, Hercules. Yes, this is a deep analysis endgame stream. A takes b4, king takes b4. So why is black winning this? And that's what we'll talk about in position 6. King b8 check. Sorry, rook b8 check. Rook b8 check. Rook b8 check, king f3, and let's see. The analysis is hidden. Black to move. Now this is actually the most interesting of them all. Black to move. This is So yeah, the king is not so well positioned, the pawn is not so well positioned. Okay, so what is black's winning idea? That's the first thing to try and figure out. The winning idea is get the rook onto one of these files, get the king hiding behind the rook, and just push that pawn home. The amazing thing is it doesn't quite work. In fact, okay, before we actually look, let's actually so actually let's actually look at I'm sorry, the arrow is suddenly showing. So rook h8. Actually, so this is actually a brilliant idea. We're going to put the rook on the h file, put the king behind, and promote. So this is winning, it turns out, but it's not completely obvious because white can go king to c4, and the point is if we follow through with our plan, then the white king is in too good a position. If oh yeah, so what am I saying? Oh yeah, so if black, by the way, wastes this opportunity, say does something like this, then white can actually gain a tempo, go to rook to d6 or d8, and he can get the checks from behind, and black can never escape from those checks. Yeah, and his pawn will be far enough advanced. So rook h8. Actually, the more interesting thing I want to show you is b4. So because this is just showing you the black plan. Rook h4. So what we said, it was very important to cut the king off on the 4th rank. Even if he pushes, we can push through this pawn, stop the pawn from promoting, takes, and we collect the pawn in time. Well, notice only just one move in time. And so in order to get it just one move in time, the key was cutting off the king on the 4th rank. So that is the winning idea, is you create some kind of shelter for your king. Because this rook can't check from behind now because it's on the 5th rank, it's not on the 7th or 8th rank, then so just to actually show, if you just wasted a move like this, and we did this, and then did this, and I guess b4, king h2, he gets there in time. The king is too well positioned, it turns out, in these lines, and the rook can sack itself on this pawn, and this rook can't stop this pawn. Okay, the problem is after rook h8, white recognizes his king is in a bad position and goes king to c4. So the only thing you can do is check that king and then attack the pawn. And you put the king back in... but aren't we back in the original position? So this is the problem with rook h8 or rook f8. They are absolutely the winning idea, but white has a cunning plan. Just improve his king position and attack the pawn, defend, and we're back in the original position. So we need another move. And yeah, this is quite incredible. Okay, so what you have to think is, where do we want where do we want the black rook? We don't just want it on this file, we want it on certain squares. So what are those squares? Here and here, because that's what would cut off the white king. So can you see a way, I mean this is crazy, can you see a way of getting the black rook to these two squares? And let's start off Rook C8 check, because we've said the other thing doesn't work. So we want to get to one of these two squares. Rook C8 check. King to D3, because of course the king wants to come to C4 desperately the moment that rook moves away again. So can you see a way of getting to one of these two squares? Anyone in chat? Can you see okay, any ideas? What's the move for black here? Behind blue eyes 30, rook c1. Yeah, but can you see a way of getting from c1 to f4 or h4? It seems very far-fetched, doesn't it? How would it get there? Via... Okay, so rook c1 indeed is right. And actually rook c1 comes with a threat. Exchange off rooks, and this pawn is more advanced, so we win. So white can't just push his pawn at this point, and he can't really move his king because the king is kind of a bit cut off. So I guess the best try is something like rook g5. Yeah, exactly, Jesse. Rook c1, the threat is rook d1 also, so it comes with tempo. Now there's only one winning move for black. Remember, we want to get here. So it's tempting to say, well, let's go here straight away. So actually this doesn't work. You can just push, push, or indeed he can go with his king first. And his king is controlling. So yeah, rook f1 really feels right, but it's not the right answer. Rook to b1. Attacking the rook. If he goes king f3, king c3 rather. King c3, hang on. So he needs to defend this pawn. He can either defend like this, or with the rook. If he defends with the rook, then the rook is kind of blocking. Hang on, so it's rook here. I think he's lost a tempo. So you can go rook h1 also. b4, rook h4, cutting off the king. So he doesn't want to do that, so he'd have to go with the king first. But this is also a problem. Rook h4, the king has to go back, because otherwise this would pick up the rook. Okay, so defending with the rook isn't very convenient. So you have to defend with the king. If you defend with the king like this, we get what we want, and we come in here. So king c3, rook f4. Something I'm just not 100% clear about. What if he comes like this? Then king f3. This rook is not well positioned to give checks from behind. You'd have to back off to try and give checks from behind. g2. So why can't he just give checks from behind? It turns out the king has a safe square. He had a safe square behind that king. It can't just keep on giving checks from behind. Oh, no, that's not right. I got that wrong. Hang on. Check, check. I'm not getting this. Something's gone wrong. So yeah, king e2 was wrong. So what's the right move here? King g3. No. Oh, king. Okay, sorry. It's approach the rook. It's approach the rook. But then you can go. Oh, okay. Yeah. Of course. The promotion square is protected. I'm being foolish. Okay, I'm going to show the analysis. Yeah, the promotion square is protected. You can just come up the board. If you tried checking from behind, it doesn't work now because the promotion square is protected. So if you just keep on checking, just do this. And if he just tries to do this, then this. And the rook will... Obviously, the king and rook are in great position to stop this pawn. So, going all the way back. King c2 was a better try to harass the rook. The rook then comes to c1. He then goes here and he gets cut off. b4, he's under shelter. Why? Oh, okay. Okay, so this looked all very simple, didn't it? Yeah. You just promote the pawn and we're winning. Not so simple, because this white king is trying to break the fourth rank defense. So what we've seen a lot of this stream is a fourth rank defense against this pawn, and white is being really sneaky. He's trying to get round the fourth rank defense by getting to h4. And what black must do is to go king f3. So when he goes king a4, or rook to g4, if you try and check me, this is the point when you stop the rook coming back to... It's like, okay, you're in too good a position for your king, so we actually have to stop this rook from ever catching this queen. The king protects against the rook ever coming to the first rank. The king protects the rook from coming to the first rank. And again, and again. Push. He checks, but now our king is in a good position, and we are in a position to pick up that pawn. So despite the fact the king's on the fourth rank, yeah. So it turns out this is quite incredible that so hi there, cut 64 and road to CGM in the chat. I'm a Crazy House player, but I've done one very nice endgame video, a couple of nice endgame videos, and this is probably the third endgame video I'm doing. The last one was on the Philidor defense. The one before that was on geometry and endgames. This is just a kind of deep analysis of a single Rook endgame from an Astaneh Simul yesterday. Just one of the 50 games he played, and just the endgame I'm just having a look at. So he tries to cut off the king and hides behind it. Okay, so the point is, this is actually quite tricky. You actually have to stop, try and block off this rook. If you go g2, which would be the natural thing to do here, okay, now white actually gets a draw. I mean, you saw the engine go, black is completely winning for a second. No, it's actually a draw. White gets his king to a4, and you can see in the endgame database. Opening Explorer, yeah. Table base. Rook c4 apparently is the best try. Rook g7. So he gets... Yeah, so the king is just well enough positioned. there's something quite funny here, where if you promote it to a queen in this position, you get mated. So the drawing technique for white is actually to promote to a knight, and whatever black does, if he's too close, the knight throws in checks, and if there's just no way of avoiding the knight checks against the rook. Okay, but all this was actually, to be honest, I think I slightly misled you in pretending how complicated this is, because it could all have been made a lot simpler. So this was black to move. For black, if he just played a little bit more efficiently, which is Rook C8 check. Okay, and remember, this is the pattern we're making. Here, this pawn just to distract here, and then come here. It's quite a pretty... Because what we want to get, or either there or indeed here, in order to cut off the king on the fourth rank. That's the kind of plan. So going to h8, as we saw earlier in the stream, doesn't work because the king can immediately go to f4. So here check, here back, here. So the reason I slightly misled you is because I showed you a line where the king went to here, and so it all got very complicated. It would have all been much simpler if the king had just gone to f6 to begin with, and then there's no time for white to play with these little tricks, getting his king on h5. That rook will be coming here, and that pawn promoting, so he has to sack already, and now this is just very... the king is far too far behind. So I actually showed you a tempo down version of the same position, which is why it ended with that funny promotion to a knight trick. Okay, so going back to the Astaneh game, black did not play Rook C8 or Rook F8, or Rook F8 or H8 would have to come back to C8 after the king tried to go to C4. So he didn't play any of those three moves. He played the check, which looks natural, but now it's drawing again. Sorry, it's not drawing again. King C3, so it's this position. He didn't... I'm mixing things up. It was after this position. He should have played either this or this or this, but the winning idea was this one, which we just showed. So it's quite a nice little study. But what did black play instead? Instead, he played king to f3. And I should cover this up again. Yeah, sorry about that. So king to f3. It's now white to move, and it's a draw again. So remember, the move he needed was rook to c8. And so why is to draw? We can get our king in a better position. We can get our pawn in a better position. We can't move the king because the pawn's protected. So I don't even need to... I think we can all guess what the move is in this position. This is quite an easy exercise. We just get our pawn rolling. And our king and pawn are going to be in a good enough position that we can then sack our rook on this pawn, and it's all over. Rook to g8, for example, could be a good try. Just go rook f5 check. King e2, I mean, other lines transpose. If king e4, rook f1, it just transposes to the same thing. So king e2, check, get our rook behind the pawn, and when the time comes, just sack, and our king is now far enough advanced that the black king can't. The way to realize it's too far advanced. Okay, so that was what happened next. So black blundered by playing king f3, and now it's Astaneh to move. He did not play b4. He played rook d3 check, the checks from the side. And now black has its advantage black once more. King to g4, he gets his king. Okay, and it's only then he has the idea, let's do these checks from behind. Rook g8. So that stops the checks from behind. He has to stop the promotion, so he has to go rook d1, king f3, b5. And in this position, this is still quite tricky. So this will be the penultimate puzzle. Is it the penultimate puzzle? No, actually, there are 3 more left somehow. But the last one's easy. So black to move. What does black do in this position? Seems obvious, right? So any suggestions in the chat? What should black do? There are actually 2 winning moves in this position. So easy to get one of them, right? And yeah, Road to DGM was asking, do I have an over-the-board rating? I played a Masters tournament when I was 13 and then kind of gave up chess for 20 years. So best answer to that is no. And these days I play Crazy House. But I started again playing standard chess, playing the 45-45 leagues, and then together with Zero we set up the Crazy House League as an offshoot of the 45-45 League, which has just entered season 6, and we've got some of the best Crazy House players in the world playing on Lee Chess in this sort of team league competition. So that's what most of my the people who watch my stream know me for. You can check out lots of commentary videos, for example, on my YouTube. Again, I'm not one of the best Crazy House players, but I try and produce instructive content, and I get some of the best players on my stream co-commentating with me. Okay, so black to play. Any ideas? So the first thing to check is, well, why not promote? Thanks, PKR. Yeah, I just played Crazy House match yesterday. Drew 1-1 against the last one. Missed mate in the first game. Yeah, Crazy House games are tough. You get these complicating mating patterns, and it's quite easy to miss. And I was just down on time. Okay, so the thing to check is, what about just doing this? Takes, takes. It turns out this pawn can actually draw against the rook. Yeah, we're going to come back to that in a later position. So black's best move is not promoting. Who'd have thought that? Wow. So what is black's best move? Okay, so this is actually quite counterintuitive in a way. You think we've got to do this quickly, right? Anyone in chat can guess the move? Nope, nope, no ideas. Okay, I'll spill the beans. The move is rook to g4. We saw this throughout the stream, cutting off the fourth rank. But this seems like why can't the pawn just run? Because then we chase it. We can actually just take it. And we get a queen against Rook Endgame, and that's an easy, well, it's a win for black. That would be a subject of a future video. Rook d8. So I mean, obviously the threat is promotion. So if we just do nothing, this pawn is just going to try and promote. But yeah, we try and cut off. He can't just try and promote because of this. Okay, so he tries something else. Maybe get behind the pawn. Maybe take and get the king up. Takes. So very important that you actually take back with the correct piece here. You might think you really want your king back in the action. But rook takes allows the white king to get this two steps ahead, as it were, of the opposition against black, and it's actually winning, not winning, but drawing for white. Whereas king takes, and the white king is stuck. It's stuck behind the fourth rank. It can't do anything. And the moment this pawn advances to here, we just hunt it down. So rook g4. How about that? Rook g4. If the rook moves away, we're just going to promote, and king takes. So it doesn't matter that the king is far away. We're doing this fourth rank, cutting off the king on the fourth rank. So rook g4 is the key idea. So it turns out rook h8 is also winning, but you have to be super careful. The king gets to c4, you then try and promote. If he takes, obviously you're getting a queen, and that's no good. So check, there, check. You have to try and get out of the checks. He gets behind. So you promote, takes, gets behind it, and we're just there in time, basically. So we've just managed to get our king behind the pawn. So rook h8 also works. Rook h8 to h1 also works, but it's you've got to be very careful. If rook h8 and he does rook d3 check, for example, and this is where you have to be careful. So king f4, rook d4 check, king g3, rook d3 check, king h2, rook d2. You have to cut off the king on the fourth rank and repeat the same trick. And then what you're going to do is just push the king to h1 and then promote. But first, cut off the king on the fourth rank. So that is one of the real themes. Okay. And if he tries to run, it's the same trick. Takes, and queen. So rook h1 also works, but the real theme of this position is cutting off the king on the fourth rank. Okay, but what happened in the game was black promoted, takes, and white did this. Okay, so this is position 9. What should white do in this position? So this is the penultimate puzzle, but the last puzzle will be easy. So what should white do in this position? Okay, I think it's getting really easy now because we've really studied this position for how long? For 1 hour and 43 minutes. We really understand it well now. So white to play and draw. We do this. We're actually shouldering the king. So if he does this, we have like 2 steps ahead of the black king, and turns out he can't catch us. If he tries to go like this, check, can't quite do anything. Black has to be a bit careful, by the way. Don't do this, because then white's winning. But okay, so that's drawing. Okay, but for some reason, obviously in time pressure, white played this instead of the very important move to shoulder the black king, which is this. He played this, black played here. So now black has the win again. And it was in this position that white resigned. So why did white resign? So if we just turn the position round to position 10, black to move. This should be, yes, this is oriented from black's position. So what's black's move in this position? Looks like white is threatening to promote, but black can just about come back in time to stop the promotion, which is why after this move, white resigned. So why did he resign? Because here, opposition, here, opposition. If he tries to push, check. If he pushes, check. And this time, there's no coming back. The king is just in too bad a position. Okay, so playing it through, for those who just joined us at the end of the stream, this was a game between in a Simul between Astaneh and superblondt. Black lost a piece, but gained the piece back through a pin, so it was he only lost a pawn. I said this was an interesting kind of position where white had an open f-file, but black had a very good diagonal. Cuts 964 says, are there days, times that you typically stream? No, not at all. I stream very randomly. And notice the beauty of this as black concentrates all his forces on the weak e4 pawn, and that pawn falls. And we get a huge exchange, and black is quite smart about creating these weaknesses in white's pawn structure. And so now, but it's still a drawn position, and we discussed right at the beginning of the stream how black's aim is to create a pass pawn on the king side. White can just put either create counterplay on the king side, or just get his king behind the pass pawn. And in fact, we said that never exchange rooks, because otherwise the white king would have to come and collect the pass pawn, the black king would collect everything up and promote. So white can never exchange rooks if he wants to draw. And so this is a drawn endgame. And we said there was an interesting way, just shuffling pieces at this point. We said there was an interesting way of drawing in this position, which was playing b4. Because if rook takes, check, and we collect, we're only a pawn down, we just get our king behind the pass pawn, and it's sorted. And if pawn takes, we've just tied down that rook to the defense of the b pawn. If he pushes, just go here. And if he does this, we do this, and we cut off the king. Oh, we could also do this. And we're back in time. Anyway, so this was one drawing idea. But okay, this wasn't played. Black did create the pass pawn he wanted. Notice king takes, excellent move from black, because it keeps the pawn as outside a pass pawn as possible. It was in this position, that was the position 1. White played this, and we said, that's the move. Position 1, that was the best move. And we explained why, because black's key idea is actually infiltrating on the second rank somehow. Because if you can get hold of this weak pawn, that's the weak pawn in white's position, the black rook can get there, put his rook here and push this pawn also will fall, and black could be 2 pawns up. So that was kind of the black idea. And then the other idea black has is simply just getting his king here and pushing this pawn. So that's the sort of danger in the position. So this was a mistake. Black to play here missed either this, or even better here, just cutting off the black king. And this is position 3, white to play. White missed his opportunity to get his king back in action. G4, rook d4, king f2, rook d3, check. Here, black to play. Had to put his king here or here. This doesn't work because this b4 idea works. And that was the position 5, b4, exchanging things off. So now king b5 also is drawing, and black's idea is just checks from behind, but his rook is in a bad position, but he's still drawing. But b4 is a mistake. It allows black to get back into it, but it's a very complex way that black has to get back into it. To get his rook on one of these two squares on the 4th rank. Instead, the king went here. So now white is drawing again. But the key idea is to get the rook checking from behind the king. So here it can be harassed. If you check, the king comes here. So he needed to either go rook here and then back, or back first. But checking from the side didn't work, so now black is winning again. And in this move, in this position, he missed rook here check, cutting off the king, or rook h1 followed by rook h4 check ideas. And instead promoted, so now it's drawing again. But white missed the draw by playing king here instead of king here, shouldering the king, and now black is winning again, and white resigned. So that's a kind of 2-minute summary at the end of that video of how interesting that endgame is. That, you know, this an international master, he's playing a Simul, he's playing his moves instantly, but so many, and of course he's going for the win, so he didn't really want to draw, and we're trying to explain all the ways in which he missed a draw, but he wasn't wanting a draw. Thanks, Joanna Tries, for all the bits. That's so kind of you. And she says, thanks for streaming such helpful content. Yeah, so I hope you've enjoyed this endgame stream. I thought it was a fascinating endgame. I thought it was so interesting. I actually spent 4 hours last night studying it, and I wanted to present it to you in this video. I won't be presenting any of the action this weekend in the Crazy House League, as I'm about to head back to London. I'm at home now, but I won't be later this weekend. But yeah, hope you've enjoyed. If you check out my YouTube, you can see some of my coverage of the Crazy House League. And thanks, Joanna, for the shout out and for the bits. Okay, so hopefully that's been instructive, and thanks everyone for watching.